This week on Vaticano, take a look into the Holy Father's private meetings and find out about his role in negotiations for peace in the Middle East. The channels of Venice are bathed in red in solidarity with persecuted Christians worldwide. Also discover who the Knights of the Holy Sepulchre are and why they meet in Rome once every 5 years. For this and more, Vaticano starts now.
Avete risvegliato il Vaticano.
You have awoken the Vatican. With these words, Pope Francis welcomed some 7,000 participants in the third international meeting of choirs in the Paul VI Hall in the Vatican.
Che interpella in particolare la liturgia.
Pope Francis said that music is truly an instrument of evangelization, which touches people's hearts and allows the faithful to perceive the beauty of paradise. The three-day event was centered on analyzing music in the liturgy and as a catechesis for the new evangelization. Pope Francis welcomed the new president of Iraq, Mr. Barham Salih, at the Apostolic Palace at the Vatican. The Iraqi president highlighted the importance of the historical presence of Christians in the country, as well as the Catholic Church's commitment to reconstruction efforts after the war. At the end of the 23-minute meeting behind closed doors, President Salih gave the Pope a silver palm tree. For his part, the Holy Father offered the President a medallion of peace with the inscription saying, "We must look for what unites and suppress what divides." Bishops of Iran, headed by Monsignor Ramzi Garmou, Archbishop of Tehran of the Chaldeans, came to the Vatican on their ad limina apostolorum visit. Christians in Iran are an absolute minority, making up only 0.5% of the population. The Catholic Church is present in 3 different rites: Latin, Chaldean, and Armenian. Christians in the Islamic Republic of Iran are often subject to discrimination. Punishment for conversion from Islam to Christianity can be the death sentence. Thanks to years of Vatican diplomatic work and St. Pope Paul VI's declaration Nostra Aetate, the relations between the Holy See and Israel have seen a tremendous transformation over the years. This year marks the 16th time the bilateral Holy See-Israel Commission meets. It's formed of the supreme rabbinic and spiritual authority for Judaism in Israel, called the Chief Rabbinate of Israel, and a delegation from the Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue. The discussion this time centered on the theme of the dignity of the human being, children in Jewish and Catholic teaching. The Commission presented a position paper to the Holy Father on end-of-life matters, with particular reference to the dangers of legalizing euthanasia and physician-assisted suicide, instead of providing palliative care and maximal respect for God-given life. The 2 delegations were led by Peter Cardinal Turkson and Rabbi Rasson Arusi, respectively. Pope Francis also received the Maronite Foundation from Lebanon and the Maronite bishops on their ad limina apostolorum visit to Rome. Speaking to the delegation from Lebanon, Pope Francis praised their efforts to maintain a balance between Christians and Muslims and thanked the Lebanese for welcoming over 1 million refugees. In an interview with us, the new ambassador of Lebanon to the Holy See, Dr. Farid El-Kassan, said that Lebanon is continuing to carry a mission that St. John Paul II defined as a mission beyond being a country, that is, to broker peace between religions and help refugees. Dr. El-Kassan also invited the Vatican to play a more active role in facilitating a working arrangement for Jerusalem to become a true city of peace.
I really fail to understand this logic. How could, by doing this, the logic of the US administration, by annexing or by giving Jerusalem to Israel, how this could help promote the cause of peace. This kind of logic, which is I fail to understand, and also for people to think that by doing this, you are moving forward in the direction of peace.
How are relations here between Beirut and the Holy See? What is your relationship with the Vatican?
Exemplary relations between the Holy See and Lebanon, and they've always been paved with good intentions on both sides.
Give me an idea of when you met the Pope. What kind of topics would have been on your agenda or his agenda?
Part of what we discussed has to do with Lebanon and the Holy See. The other, and I meant this, I discussed with the Holy Father some of the issues that he raised in an interview, in a long interview, in a book that came out recently by Dominic Walton, including even some personal questions to which I did not have answers, personal concerning the Pope. So it was a very nice, very friendly, very straightforward, humble, open discussion, which I really cherished, I enjoyed, and would like to see him again.
Can we expect the Pope to make a trip to the Middle East in the near future?
All Lebanese would welcome another trip by Pope Francis, another meaning because Pope Benedict XVI was in Lebanon a few years ago, and before him, Pope John Paul II visited Lebanon as well. So I hope he will do that.
Christian persecution is an enormous issue, and EWTN covers it a lot. What is the situation for Christians in your country as opposed to in the rest of the region?
Now, in Lebanon, the situation is different from that of other countries. Christians and Muslims have rights, are there, and politically they are present. And this is, again, because of Lebanon's unique historical evolution. Since 2011, over 50 or 40, we don't know the number, in fact, babies were born to Syrian parents. Mm-hmm. We need to register them.
But they're in camps.
They were where they were, but they are not. They have babies which do not have any nationality, Syrian or Lebanese or whatever. So we need to register them, and that took a lot of effort and work and pressure. The international community organization did not cooperate, Syrian government, and also the Lebanese were in disagreement over the issue.
Well, do you also speak to your Syrian counterpart here in Rome, the ambassador to the Holy See?
So Syria, I think now, was boycotted by the Arab League, and I don't think they have a representative. Okay. Anyway, we're talking to the Syrians from Lebanon to Syria, in Lebanon.
Let me talk about faith-based organizations that are helping with the migration crisis. What are they doing? How much are they helping your country?
There has been help and support by international donors, including the Vatican, the Catholic Church organizations. UNHCR initially went out of the usual norms of conduct by allowing a large number of people to come to Lebanon, refugees, non-refugees, workers, non-workers. It was really totally chaotic. And this was handled by UNHCR. Now things are a bit different because the government of Lebanon put pressure on this UN institution. No, enough is enough. We cannot take
unlimited.
Plus, some of these people are not strictly refugees. If you can come to Lebanon and go back to your hometown and then back and forth, the refugee status does not apply to these people. Anyway, we had a problem with specifically UNHCR.
How many refugees are there currently, would you estimate?
At least over 1 million, plus about 500,000 Palestinian refugees since 1948, amounting roughly to about 40% of our population. This is a huge imbalance. Yeah.
Enormous amount. Farid Al-Hazan, thank you very much for joining us on
Thank you.
In a few moments, we'll be back with more on Vaticano. More on Vaticano begins now.
On November 16th, here at the Library of the United Nations, Geneva, during a panel on the subject of a culture of peace, the former nuncio to the United Nations Geneva, Archbishop Silvano Tomasi, presented his book, The Vatican in the Family of Nations. He was nuncio for 13 years. In over 870 pages, he documented how the Holy See always aimed to articulate the message of the gospel in words and ways that can reach and be understood by members of the UN Forum, People of Today.
And it's a collection of statements that chronicles the diplomatic actions of the Holy See here in UN Geneva over more than 13 years in an engaging personal account by Archbishop Tomasi. It's a powerful illustration of the many ways in which the Holy See is an indispensable partner in the promotion of common values and dialogue.
Your Excellency, first of all, it's good to see you here in Geneva again. And I want to remind our audience that the Archbishop was one of the first supporters and promoters of our mission here at the United Nations for EWTN. Remember in 2014?
It was a pleasure.
Yes, thank you. From your observation during your time as nuncio, is this really a family or is it a group of competing states trying to push their own agenda?
I opted for the Vatican in the family of nations more as an ideal and a goal to be reached than the reality that we face today. As Pope Francis says all the time, we need to be builders of bridges and not builders of walls.
Dear friends, it is precisely this approach that has always guided the activity of the Holy See within the family of nations. In this regard, the volume of Archbishop Tomasi, The Vatican, the Family of Nations, is testimony of the engagements and efforts of the Holy See in multiracial diplomacy and its continuous invitation to dialogue and to foster unity among the human family. Thank you.
The statements back then delivered by Nuncio Tomasi and today by Nuncio Jurkovic offer great motivation and some fundamental concepts, many already articulated in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Now you're working now in Rome at the Holy See, Dicastery for Promoting Integral Human Development. Question, does Pope Francis sometimes pull you aside or come to you and ask you for your advice on diplomatic issues?
I had a chance a few days ago to meet with the Holy Father. We talk about several things, but he has his own cabinet, so to say, and the people closer to him, like the Secretary of State, Secretary for Relations with States, are giving him the proper advice, and we feed knowledge into these offices so that they have the right information and the Pope can make a judgment that is more objective and based on the current reality.
The active participation of the Holy See and other faith-based organizations in international affairs is an essential part of the Church's mission and a contribution to finding appropriate answers.
I think this role has been growing in the last few years, and we should take advantage of this development. NGOs, individuals, groups that are organized, that have access to the United Nations systems, should be more vocal in their advocacy role and to be brave in proposing their values, not so much because of a partisan choice, but because at the end, this is the good of the human family. If we didn't have the United Nations, we should invent it, because today is urgent and necessary. The people dialogue and talk to each other instead of closing in on themselves and creating barriers that become suspicious and may lead to conflict.
Well, thank you very much for this interview, and we're happy to...
Christian, thank you. You did a great job over the years, and God willing, I hope you continue to do it.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
Take care.
God bless you. Take care. In his book, Archbishop Tomasi writes that the UN needs to rise more and more above the cold status of an administration institution and to become a moral center where all the nations of the world feel at home and develop a shared awareness of being a family of nations. The presence of the Holy See at the UN is a constant reminder of this goal.
In November, around 200 lieutenants of the Order of the Holy Sepulchre met with the Successor of Peter, confirmed their loyalty to him, and were confirmed in their mission. The Holy Father thanked the Order for its spiritual and charitable commitment to supporting the Christian presence in biblical lands, and entrusted their work to Our Lady of Palestine, to whom the Order has a great devotion. The roots of the Order of the Holy Sepulchre of Jerusalem go back to the time of the Crusaders, although it was reformed and re-established in more modern times. Grand Master Cardinal Edwin Frederick O'Brien keeps the memory of the Order's history alive while leading it in the 21st century.
The Equestrian Order of the Holy Sepulchre of Jerusalem was established in 1847 by Pope Pius IX in order to keep the holy places free of intervention and free of attack, and most especially to keep the Christian faith alive in the Holy Land. As we know, through the centuries, the faith has always been tested and tried. And the Holy Father wanted to have an organization specially devoted to that place, that holy place, and to those good people, that the faith may continue to live. Today we have almost 30,000 members in over 40 countries, Europe and Asia and North America. And we're devoted to helping the Patriarchate of Jerusalem in his efforts to keep the faith alive. Churches open, schools, cemetery, hospitals, and so forth, humanitarian works. And usually our generous members contribute maybe $15 million or a little more to that cause every year.
Today, the Order is internationally recognized as a legitimate order of knighthood, with its headquarters in Rome, fully enjoying papal sovereignty and the Holy See's protection. The lieutenants of the Order meet once every 5 years for a consulta, which means council, to discuss internal issues and update each other on the results of their work. We were allowed in for a part of the gathering this year, which took place from November the 13th to the 16th, where lieutenants talked to us about the importance of the meeting and this year's theme.
It is an opportunity for us to get to know more about the Order, get to meet the highest officials of the Order, get to meet the other lieutenants around the world. And in this particular consulta, the theme that has been chosen is the role of the lieutenant.
Well, it is the lay part, it is the lay boss, if you want to say like this, of a country. So we are always on two parts. It is the lay section and always a grand prior for the spiritual, for the ecclesiastical section.
This tradition, in my opinion, is very important for the modern life of the Catholic Church in Russia. It enriches the Church because it offers what has never been offered before. This cultural aspect is very important to me, and the Order is a great opportunity for those who care for the Holy Land, to care constantly. It is a kind of charisma. We do not take vows as a reward, but to take care of the Christians of the Holy Land. The Order, in this case, is a call to advance this service.
Because we need to help people that can't help themselves. What the Order manages to do in the Holy Land is second to none. And those people, they need us. They need our prayers, they need our support, they need our solidarity.
Since the last consulta in 2013, the Order has grown in the number of its members and also geographically expanded. Today, knights and dames are present in 40 nations and currently organized into nearly 60 lieutenancies. The consulta was also an occasion to celebrate the spiritual wealth of the Order's charism, exemplified in the life of the first blessed of the Order, Bartolo Longo. This concert at Rome's Basilica of the Holy Cross in Jerusalem offered the lieutenants a spiritual journey of Blessed Bartolo Longo to Our Lady of Palestine. Stick around for more on Vaticano. Welcome back. You're watching Vaticano. Persecution of Christians worldwide is on the increase. A new religious freedom report from the papal charity Aid to the Church in Need estimates that at least 300 million Christians internationally are being persecuted because of their faith.
Prova, come se vi accadesse qualcosa di strano.
They say 1 in 7 Christians worldwide lives in a situation of persecution. In the last 2 years, Aid to the Church in Need's Italian branch has promoted a campaign to raise awareness to their suffering and invite assistance. They're illuminating major monuments in the color red. Last February, the most ominous symbol of Christian persecution, Rome's Colosseum, was bathed in red light. The initiative was partly dedicated to the defense of the life of a Pakistani Christian, Asia Bibi, who was accused and jailed for blasphemy in 2010. She was condemned to death by hanging. In Rome, her family said that her strong faith was keeping her going. At the end of October, Pakistan's Supreme Court acquitted Asia Bibi and after several days set her free to a still undisclosed location. The court's decision provoked riots and death threats to Asia Bibi. She and her family are now seeking asylum outside of Pakistan. And once again, on November the 19th, Aid to the Church in Need stepped onto the front lines, advocating for Asia Bibi and other persecuted Christian women. This time by bathing the city of Venice in red light.
I remember that last February we were in Rome when Aid to the Church in Need illuminated in red the Colosseum. My mother was in prison at that time. This evening, while you are illuminating in red Venice, thanks God, she is free. And I hope that our entire family, finally happy and free, may visit Venice very soon.
While 8 historic Venetian buildings, as well as the Rialto Bridge and the Basilica of Santa Maria della Salute, were lit up in the color red, young people from the Archdiocese of Venice made a walking pilgrimage through the city to pray for persecuted Christians.
Tu sei benedetta fra le donne, e benedetto è il frutto del tuo seno, Gesù.
Coptic Catholic Bishop Fahim Awad Hanna was among them. His native land of Egypt is home to the largest Christian community in the Middle East, around 16 million Christians. They're facing unprecedented levels of persecution today. Bishop Hanna said that their situation ties them closer to Jesus.
Accendere la basilica di rosso è un simbolo.
Lighting up the basilica in red is a symbol that brings us to the blood, violence, and fire. So many communities in today's world, especially in Egypt, live this experience. This spilt of blood brings us to the blood of Christ that he poured for the salvation of the world. Jesus, with his love, transformed the spilling of blood into the donation of blood by an act of love. And so the Church continues to live in the footsteps of her teacher, offering her life in sacrifice for the sake of her faith and also for the salvation of the world.
E per la salvezza del mondo.
Bishop Hanna also echoed Pope Francis's own words that the world cannot turn a blind eye to the plight of persecuted Christians. They need expressions of solidarity and aid, like the Venice event.
Indifference is homicidal, not for whom we ignore, but for ourselves. So I know that the young people of Europe have a generous soul, that they want to do something, but sometimes waiting for an appeal. So today we rise again, the appeal to make our world worthy of our presence and of our life.
Della nostra presenza e della nostra vita.